Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we are going to kick off with an MSP talking about how to redefine and enhance the customer experience. We're joined by Brandon Lin from Cavalier Technology. Brandon, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's really awesome. Everyone, folks, my name is Dave Yosta. I'm president of the Managed Service Provider Association America. And Brandon from Cavalier Technology is one of our members. And we wanted to highlight the services that he does because they're really, really cool. They're really awesome. So, Brandon, let's jump straight into it. Tell us a bit about yourself first and where you are and who you are.
All right. So I am a nerd at heart, obviously, running a technology company like this, but originally from Virginia and located now in Tampa, Florida, where I would like to say it's warm, but it's not today. Two great kids, wife, dog, all that good stuff. And yeah, when I'm not doing technology stuff, I am coaching baseball for my son's baseball team.
Awesome. I want to get to the baseball in a minute, but you said you're a nerd at heart. And I resonate with that because I think a lot of tech guys, we're nerds at heart. We love playing with technology, right?
Oh yeah, this all started with a computer that my dad brought home when I was 13 years old. I'm not going to admit how long ago that was at this point,
Sure.
and it still continues on today. I wish I could say that I had hobbies that weren't technology related, but we've got a whole home lab that I will sit and tinker with on the weekends, and now I'm trying to get my kids sucked into it too.
Well, so I think we've established you have a love for technology. That's very, very clear right there. Um, you said you got into this very, very young when your dad had this computer. Tell us about your path and how you actually got to where you are today.
So, yeah, when I was 13, there was a computer my dad's office was throwing away. He asked if he could take it home, and they said yes. And so I really started there. It was, I'll never forget, good old green screen DOS.
Yep.
Uh, I broke it more times than I can count. The guy at his office luckily would fix it for me, and then finally got to a point where he's like, "I'm gonna have to teach him how to fix this." So that's really where it started, and then I lucked out and went to a school that had a computer lab and a computer science teacher who noticed I really had an interest in it, and uh, basically continued to do the same thing over the years. As computers were getting phased out, he'd send one home with me, and I would start piecing them together to basically build upgrades. Um,
Sure.
so that's how it really started. It rolled into high school. We had to do a big project at the end of the year. Mine, I built a server from scratch. I started working for a company then, doing MSP work for banks and whatnot, as well as some private contracting for some government projects. Went to school for computer engineering and business from there, and it's really just continued to roll on from there. I spent about a decade working for a private company in DC, supporting a handful of different sub organizations that they had. And then finally, we decided we wanted to come back to Florida. And so we moved back to Tampa.
So it's very evident you've been in tech for a long time. Fast forward X amount of years, and you now run Cavalier Technology, and your passion that you've just mentioned, very, very evident. Something you mentioned a few minutes ago, when you started Cavalier Technology, you were dealing with banks. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is what is your mission? What is Cavalier's mission? And as we said earlier on, your mission is to enhance customer experience. So tell us a bit about the company.
So that is our goal. Our goal is obviously to provide technical services, but we are constantly striving to improve the client experience. We've found over the years, not only being a technology company ourselves, but also with some consulting that I was doing in a previous life,
Sure.
that there were a lot of technical companies out there, but that their customer service was just falling short. They weren't good at communicating to the client in non-technical terms what the issue was and what needed to be resolved. Follow-up communication wasn't great. And so we really felt that there was the opportunity there to be able to provide all of these technical services, but do it in a client-focused experience where we are communicating regularly. We're explaining technical terms in non-technical people terms and making sure that we are also making the right recommendations. We want to make sure that we're not just pushing something on them because it might get us a better bottom line or we might get something additional sold. We are very upfront with our clients about what they do need to do and what they don't need to do, and where they should and should not invest funds. And so that's really our goal. We're not perfect at it. No one is, but our goal each year is to continue to refine and improve that experience.
Yeah, everyone loves a story. And, whether it be the good, the bad, or the ugly, everyone loves a story. If you can share one, can you share a story of a potential client or a previous acquaintance you had that experienced that terrible service, if you want to call it that, and where you guys came in and essentially saved the day?
So one that really sticks out in my mind is so we at Cavalier Technology Group, we really have two sides of the house. We've got the full technical side, and then we have a digital side.
Okay.
And we had brought on a new client on the digital side. We were building them full new website out and some other stuff. And they had a current technology company. They were having trouble getting a hold of them. The solutions just weren't really working out. But the big make or break was in a hurricane that we had a few years ago, they actually had a tornado come through and take out their entire office building.
Oh,
And so they were left with a server that had gotten partially wet, and everything else was gone, and couldn't get a hold of their other companies. So they reached out to us. We were out there within 2 or 3 hours. We're able to salvage the data off of the server and essentially got them up and running in a temporary format so that they could continue to operate while we essentially rebuilt their infrastructure. And then we spent the next about year and a half rebuilding their infrastructure and growing it over a 60-acre property that they own.
wow. I have to say, you mentioned the hurricane, and it immediately brings my mind back to the hurricanes that Florida had a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
Um, did that affect you or any of your clients?
I definitely did. We we have a very rigid hurricane checklist, we'll call it, for all of our
Okay.
clients. We make sure everyone has a full cloud backup. We actually, if it's a local client, we will go pick up servers if we need to, any sort of uh, heavy infrastructure, and take it to our office because our office is elevated. Um, so we do all of that before a hurricane, and then we have a full plan that's their response plan for disaster relief if they should get anything damaged. We lucked out. Most of our clients just had some simple flooding, didn't manage to more than a couple inches, but there was a whole chunk of Tampa that was unfortunately not as lucky.
So let me ask you this question: for a potential client that is based in a disaster zone, if you want to call it that, what is the one piece of advice you can give them just to start?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is those cloud backups are
Okay.
worth their weight in gold for you, right? And one of the things that we stress to our clients in those areas is it's not necessarily just a server, but your end user machines as well. And the reason being is that they want to be up and running as quickly as they can after
Yeah.
it subsides. And we partner with an infrastructure company where we do all of our backups into there, and then we've got the ability to virtualize them in the cloud environment, so that if the entire office does get wiped out, we just need to find them a laptop, a desktop where they can get into a machine in the cloud and continue running.
So what do you say? What do you say to clients who don't want that service?
uh, we have a very honest and open conversation with them about that and what that looks like for them
Okay.
post. Um, there are cases where we will not take them as a client if they're not going to do that, which might sound a little bit harsh, but we know the reality and we are very concerned again with the client experience. And if we're not able to have you up and running how you're supposed to be a day or two after a storm, then we feel that we've fallen short. And we also, we know the risks, and if they choose to ignore those, there's only but so much we can recover after.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
I,
it's a
I hear
conversation. We take it case by case.
and I hear the story time and time again is a client doesn't want a particular service for whatever reason, and that's their prerogative, right? But then something happens, and it's like, oh no, now we need it, and it's like ransomware. It's like, oh no, I don't want
Yep.
any protections from ransomware, but when it hits, now I need it, and it's too late, right?
It is, and interestingly enough, we tend to find that the ones who don't want to invest in that upfront are the ones who want to be up and running the quickest after the storm.
I, I don't know. What do you say to someone like that, right? We're not going to get into that too much right now, but that's another topic we could talk for the next 5 hours on.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we have a few minutes left here, but before we do go into our closing comments, I wanted to ask you. You're an MSP, we know that. Um, are you national?
We have some different hubs that we primarily focus in. We are all throughout Florida. We've got offices on the West, Central, and East Coast. We do a lot of projects nationwide where we don't necessarily have an office. And then we're also have offices in Pennsylvania and DC.
Okay. So, and the reason why I asked that is because you, as an MSP, you're on the East Coast. Now, there is a lot of MSPs on the East Coast. You throw a stone, you're going to hit five, right?
Yes.
What makes you so different from some of your other competitors?
So there's a few things. We don't have enough time for all of it, so
Right.
I'll be brief. But going back to controlling and really working on that client experience is one of the big ones. Another big one is the fact that we do have two sides of the house. So we have got a full digital marketing team that has every person has 10, 20 years of experience on that side, as well as the technical. And then what we've done is we've built strategic partnerships with any companies where we don't necessarily provide that service, such as cloud hosting, VoIP, etc. And we've built those relationships so that instead of a client having to call a different person if the printer breaks or if the phone system doesn't work, we actually will have them reach out to us. We act as a one-stop shop. We then work with the companies on the back end to resolve the issue so that the business owner or the staff can continue on working without having any sort of issue. And then the last part is we also deal a lot with nonprofits. And so we've got significant experience in the nonprofit realm, and we really enjoy working with them to make sure that we can provide them with all of the necessary services that they need.